It is cold and wet, but I have a really interesting shoot today. So we're all loaded up. Let's get going. I'll tell you about this a little later on. So we're all loaded up and off to what is going to be a really fun shoot today. I'm going to get to flex a little bit more creative muscle than I traditionally get to. So much of my work is sort of more corporate interviews, just sort of 2-camera, 3-point lighting, pretty typical, capturing testimonials or doing some kind of interview content. But today I get to capture something a little bit more creative. So I'm getting to pull out some tools that I haven't actually gotten to use on any professional shoots. Things like my haze machine, which is going to be cool to try and play with some volumetric lighting, try and get some different effects. I'm bringing my projector mounts, have a lot of fun there, as well as the tube lights, a couple other things. So excited to try maybe a different type of videography today, something that I have a lot of interest in, something that I really enjoy, something that I've played around a little bit with just at home for fun, but now I'm getting to do it with an actual client. So I'm excited about what that process is going to look like. It's genuinely might be my least favorite part of the job. Loading in, loading out, all of these just miscellaneous little pieces. And this is like half of the crap that's in my car. There's got to be a better system for this, a way to organize, have less things to carry. If you have an idea for me, let me know. So for this project, we're in the upstairs room of this barn, sort of this loft type area. And right now I'm setting up my big book light just because I wasn't 100% sure how I was gonna need to light the space in general. The lighting up above was pretty harsh. It wasn't great. I knew I needed all the overhead light off. So I'm going with an 8x8 on the T-frame and then a 4x4 bounce with my Nanlite FC500B up into it. This is kind of the classic book light setup that I use all the time. Now, ironically, after all the work to set that up, I didn't actually end up using it at all, but I had a little bit extra time, so I set it up just in case. Now, this project was really unique. So it was one of those opportunities where I knew it was gonna be creative. I knew it was gonna be different. I kind of understood the look that the client was asking for, but I wasn't 100% sure how to create it. So there was a lot of trial and error. So what I ended up doing is relying on my Nanlite 60C with the projector mount and just really pushing a ton of green into the image. I used some magnetic clamps to throw 3 different tube lights around this whiteboard. And this ended up kind of being a little bit of the final setup. So I have my FX30 with the DZO Vespid 21mm on sticks. That's my locked off A-cam kind of capturing the wide, and then I went handheld with my A7 IV on the Helios for sort of the B camera and then sort of the detail shot. So this project was really unique. This is a video that the client wanted that could use internally with their staff, just sort of as like a running joke for a staff event coming up that plays on some themes. So it was supposed to be really wacky, really weird, really out there. So there's a lot of like inside jokes embedded within the video, but an opportunity to get really creative and trying to get the image that the client wanted and also trying to create sort of this really weird, abstract, funky scene. So this is that A-cam image. I had to do quite a bit of work in post, punched in a little bit, and then also rotated it just to get sort of that weird. It's supposed to be sort of like a basement home video type of vibe, just heavy green. And then the main character is off to the right, just totally blurred out. Then we threw in some subtitles and just kind of had this really fun, unique look. And then this is the B-cam. This is the Helios punched in tight. I mean, once again, you can't see a ton of the lens character because you have the kind of that blurred out effect, but really fun project overall. Really enjoyed working on it. Now, I did do this at quite a discount. A couple videos ago, I talked about how I price and charge client work, and then actually right after I put that video out, I saw this video by Story King Studios talking about this spreadsheet that he's created, and I was like, that is such a good idea. Why did I not think of that? So I went ahead and built out my own so that I can be a lot more efficient, but also it feels like a lot more professional in how I price things. So I kind of have set pricing. I can build out the calculator the way I want. It kicks me out a number, and that way I'm not kind of having to guess or come up with sort of rough estimates every time alone. So I want to show you actually that template for this client. Like I said, this is a client I've worked with a ton. It's a nonprofit that I really enjoy working for. I believe in the mission. So I give them a huge discount. What I did is I just built out how I would normally charge this client or any client, and then gave them 80% discount on top of that. So brought the rate really low, but one of those projects that I love working on. I love the organization. I got to learn quite a bit in just trying new techniques, practicing new tools. So just all around a really fun time. Totally worth it for me, even when the pay was really small. I had 2 other shoots this week. Both were just quick talking head interview style shoots, locked off with a teleprompter. You can see the images. The first one was just in a really ugly room with a blue background. So just punched in tight, not a ton going on with this one at all. These were both super down and dirty, run and gun. I had like half an hour to get in and out on both of these. So you can kind of see the final images there on the screen. Not a ton to write home on those, but this is the kind of work I find myself doing a lot of. So that actually brings me to this, the package that I showed you at the beginning. And let me just talk about what this is going to be. So this is the teleprompter that I own and that I use. Had this for a while. This was actually a gift from a dear friend, so it has some sentimental value to me, and it has served me well. I've done actually way more teleprompter work than I ever anticipated or expected to, and this guy has come in clutch. But the one thing with this teleprompter, it's a little big, bulky, heavy, but just the way that it sets up is really inconvenient for the way that my camera rigs run. It doesn't go on rails, it goes straight into the tripod, and you have to screw in with a 1/4-20 into the base of the camera. It's just kind of a whole thing. I end up having to sort of take my rigs apart. It makes it challenging to run V-mounts when I'm using this on my cameras, or have the cameras built out, rigged out. So that's why I decided to go ahead and order this. Now, this is something I've kind of had my eye on for a little while, and actually shout out to some guys over on YouTube and also Instagram who I see kind of rocking this right here. But this is the SmallRig teleprompter system, and why I went with this is because it mounts straight onto rails, which I already run on both my cameras. Makes it really easy to tear up, makes it really easy to set up and to tear down. That way I'm not having to sort of take my camera off of the base. I'm not having to take it off of the V-mount. Like, I can just put this right at the front of the rig, right on the rails, continue to leave the camera rigged out, continue to leave that V-mount on. And so even though it's not a massive deal, I think this is like 120 bucks. To me, it's just one of those friction points that I run into enough that this felt worth the investment. So I'm really excited to begin using this guy and to not have to do all the work with that guy. And that's one of the things that I found is, you know, even when a piece of gear works, sometimes the friction that it involves to use that piece of gear makes you kind of not want to use it. And at that point, to me, it becomes worth it to make the upgrade if the funds are available. And in this case, they were. So really excited for this. Now, the last thing I want to talk about in this video, actually sort of goes back to this camera I had sitting on the desk. I've done a dedicated video on this. This is my film camera, Nikon FM, and I'm not talking about film necessarily, but I am talking about photography, or just the ability to practice creating beautiful frames and beautiful images. That's something that I've just really found like I'm lacking right now in my skill set or in my rhythm or routine of filmmaking, is opportunities to practice being creative. You know, I really feel like a lot of my work is formulaic, and this week in particular sort of revealed that for me, because I got to do something creative, and I just don't get to do that very much. So whether that's short films, whether that's photography, you know, I need to figure out what that medium looks like, where I can every day, if possible, or at least in a weekly cadence, express and find ways to practice that creative part of self, that creative piece, so that I can improve as a filmmaker, improve as a videographer, but also just have that outlet. Now, don't get me wrong, it is fun creating beautiful scenes for talking head interviews, but I wouldn't say that's necessarily where I'm most passionate as a storyteller. So I really want to find ways to grow in my creativity, also I guess in my cinematography, and I think stills photography could be a really interesting way to do that. So I'd love to hear what you're implementing in your kind of weekly cadence to continue to grow as a cinematographer, as a director of photography, as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, because that's something I really want to dive into here in the coming months. So as always, appreciate you guys hanging out. Peace.